Hello and welcome to another episode of Techification. In this video, we're going to be doing an unboxing of the Samsung 840 EVO SSD. So the main difference between an SSD and a hard drive is a hard drive has moving platters and an SSD does not. It's based off of flash storage, making it much faster, which is why your phones and tablets, which have much slower hardware in terms of processors and much less RAM than your computer, may seem faster. This is because they use flash-based storage, which is exactly what is in an SSD. So if you were to put an SSD inside your computer, then you would notice that you would have tablet-like performance due to that simple upgrade. So if I can get this packaging open, then we will do the unboxing. So like I said, this is a Samsung SSD, and the main advantage of Samsung SSDs is, as you may or may not know, Samsung is a huge company, and they actually produce a lot of, they're actually the ones that produce a lot of OEM or no-name flash, and also a lot of flash controllers. So, but they save the best ones for themselves, like anybody would. So this isn't really working. There we go. So that is exactly what they did for this. So inside, here's the SSD itself. This is a 2.5 millimeter drive, so it will fit in a notebook. And included is steps to install it, which basically means put it for both laptop and desktop, which basically means put the SSD in and download the latest software off of the website, and you're ready to go. There is software included, as well as a manual and software and manual on the DVD, which you can throw away and download the latest from the Samsung website, as well as the warranty information. So, what differentiates this drive from other SSDs? Well, for starters, this is a 250 gigabyte SSD, and with this EVO class of drives, then it comes in 120 gigabytes, 250 gigabytes, 512 gigabytes, and 1 terabyte, if you're willing to spend the money. So, but I'd say that this is sort of the sweet spot in terms of size to price. So with this drive, or with any of the EVO drives, Samsung includes their Magician software, which will actually take if you're writing a whole bunch of continuous data, then you can set it so that it will take some of that data and write it to RAM first, which is like 10 times faster than this. RAM can operate up to, I think it's 1.5 gigabytes per second, and this is about 400 to 500 megabytes per second. So, and a hard drive is like 100. So still much faster than a hard drive, but not as fast as RAM. So if you're writing to an SSD, then it will write to the RAM first, and then slowly write it to the SSD, meaning this is called rapid, meaning that you can get much better performance out of your SSD using a little bit of extra RAM as a cache. So one thing to keep in mind is that hard drives wear just because they're spinning and they're a mechanical device, but SSDs wear down because of writes. But there's pretty much an unlimited number of times you can read from them, but there's limited write cycles. So for things like rendering where you have a whole bunch of tiny little files, or for things like browser caches where you're constantly writing to the SSD, I would strongly recommend either not using those things, for example, turning your browser cache off, or taking those things and moving them to a hard drive so that you don't wear down your SSD. So, and then you can read from the SSD really, really quickly and get that advantage. So this is a 250 gig drive, as I mentioned before. So what I might recommend is that you put your operating system, whether that be Mac, Windows, or Linux, and your most frequently used applications and files on here, and then having a separate storage drive for everything else that will be slower but have a much greater capacity. So for example, in my case, I'd have this with my operating system and say Final Cut and iTunes and Safari and Mail, which I use all the time. And then I'd have a 2 terabyte drive where I'd have all my Final Cut files and my iPhoto library and any other documents that I might store. So then I can have the speed and responsiveness of the SSD, but also the storage of the hard drive. Also included with the Evo series is their transfer software. So it's a one-click transfer to get all the stuff that was on your hard drive and onto the SSD. And in that process, you can say, I want to put these things on the solid-state drive, but these things to keep on the hard drive, so that you can split your data that way. Because for most of you, it's probably on one drive at the moment. Also, with every Samsung drive there is encryption built right into the device. So it's full 256-bit AES encryption. So even if somebody steals the drive, and unplugs it from the computer and plugs it in somewhere else, they won't be able to access any information on the drive because it's encrypted, which is a really nice security feature, especially if you're putting it in a laptop where somebody may steal your laptop, which would be unfortunate, but possible. And if they were to take the drive out, they wouldn't be able to access any of your precious information, which would be really nice. In terms of the device itself, in terms of physical overview, at the top, it's got the Samsung solid-state drive. In the, let's call it the front, it's got the SATA power and SATA data connectors. These are 6 gigabit per second connectors, although they are backwards compatible with SATA 3 gigabit per second. If you don't know what that means, that's okay. As long as you have these connectors, it should work. On the back is just information, model numbers, serial numbers, all that kind of cool stuff. In the bottom is the mounting plates, as well as on the sides, depending on what kind of mounting brackets you need. For notebooks, it'll often be in the sides with the 2.5-inch drive, and for desktops, sometimes it'll be on the sides and sometimes it'll be with the bottom 4 screws. What else can I say about this? Yeah, this is my first SSD that I've owned personally, so I'm looking forward to speeding up my editing machine where I spend a lot of my time. And yeah, so I would love for you to post your thoughts on the 840 EVO or what your thoughts on upgrading to SSDs are in the comment sections below. And as always, don't forget to comment. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe.